What's going on, Jerome's? So it is NFL draft season, and most importantly is what the Vikings are going to do at quarterback. And there's a lot to choose from. This potentially could be the deepest quarterback class in NFL history. I think conservatively, there could be 4, 5, 6 regular starters, maybe even a couple superstars in this class, as well as some high-level backups, which does have value, especially as we saw last year with quarterback 2s and 3s getting thrown into the fire. So the whole thing about the evaluation process, I don't consider myself a scout or an NFL draft expert. I'm a fan. I'm just like you. I'm a fan. Now, comps are good for us fans because we get a picture in our mind's eye of what a player could bring to the table. Now, evaluators, they don't really like comps, but who cares? But we are going to do the best case scenario and potential worst case scenario for all of these quarterbacks. And yes, we did add Joe Milton because why not? So ceiling, floors, everywhere in between. So first up, Caleb Williams, the pride of USC. So I believe in his talent. I think that he is a wizard at times. Sometimes I think that he makes things too difficult for himself, but but I think that he truly does have a ton of talent. So that's why, yes, I do think that the ceiling is Patrick Mahomes. I think that making plays off schedule, I think that, I don't want to say like pulling plays out of your arse, but there is an inherent natural talent, and I do think that Caleb Williams has the potential to rise up and be an elite quarterback in this league. Now, he is going to the Bears in all likelihood. So, now floor, Jameis. So, Jameis, I mean, people forget, Jameis was the number 1 overall pick back in 2015. Also, Mariota was the number 2 pick in that draft. So, it's rare when you have a draft where the top 2 picks both don't work out. But I think that Williams, he does force the issue a little bit too much. And he does play hero ball a little bit too much, and that's exactly like Jameis Winston. Now, could Williams function as a backup for a number of years and for a number of teams like Jameis has? Sure. I think that could potentially be a thing, but we'll see. Also, after the Bears ruined Caleb Williams, he can come back up Drake Maye for the Vikings. There you go. Now, with Drake Maye and Caleb Williams are a lot more similar than people believe, right? Even though Drake Maye 6'4", 230, built more like a tank, and Williams 6'1" and change, but I think that Drake Maye does have a lot of gunslinger to him. I think that there is a lot to clean up in his mechanics, but I think that the Vikings would afford him a chance to sit and stew and marinate with McCown and Kevin O'Connell, etc. But Maye, the highs are there. The absolute highs are there. So I think that his ceiling is good, Josh Allen. Now, Josh Allen was certainly in the MVP conversation this year, and when he's on, he is on. Now, when he's off, he is certainly off, and I feel like that applies to Drake Maye as well. So not only the total arm strength, not only the size, not only the mobility, I think that does correlate with a good Josh Allen. And Maye is a little bit polarizing, sure. People do point out that, I mean, there's some bad throws on his 2023 tape, even though 2020, I will die on this hill. Drake Maye's 2022 tape is just as impressive as Caleb Williams' 2022 tape when he won the Heisman. Well, after Jordan Addison won him in the Heisman. But, I mean, Josh Allen was the most polarizing prospect in NFL draft history. People forget it because, I mean, Josh Allen panned out, but man, when the Bills traded up to 7 to go get him, a lot of people were like, boo, boo. Because he was at Wyoming, and he didn't have mind-blowing stats, but you were betting on the potential. Anyways, Drake Maye's floor, bad Cutler. So, I mean, people forget, Jay Cutler could move around a little bit. Jay Cutler ran the option at Vanderbilt. That's how you know how tough he is. But, Jay Cutler was an arm strength merchant at times. He did not give an F at times. He just trusts his arm too much, and he forced the issue. I think Drake Maye could fall into that trap with that big-time arm, but hopefully not. Next up, Jayden Daniels. So the easy answer for Jayden Daniels is Lamar Plus. So I love that the draft process come around where, because people forget, so 2018, like Lamar was legitimately talked about. I was like, well, let's move him to running back. That's why he fell to the 32nd pick in the class. But Jayden Daniels has the mobility of Lamar Jackson and that threat to run, but he's light years ahead of where Lamar was as a passer coming into the league. Jayden Daniels has good accuracy, has good touch, good velocity, and he's a threat at all 3 levels. So, I mean, Jayden Daniels is don't say like he's a finished product, obviously, but he is a lot more polished of a passer than Lamar was coming into the league. That's why he's being seen as a top 3 pick, whereas Lamar was a borderline first rounder when he came in. Now the floor, again, easy comparison is RG3, where there are, even though Daniels did weigh in nicely at his pro day, and then he showed up and showed out, so it proved that his is walking around weight now. But there is concern about durability, and RG3 came in and took the league by storm, man. Like, his rookie season was fantastic, but once he got dinged up and then he tore his ACL in that playoff game, that was a wrap. That really was it for his career. And Daniels, like, he does have that upside mobility. I think that he's a much better passer than Lamar was, certainly, and also even a much better passer than RG3 coming out of Baylor too. Both of them, all 3 of these guys won the Heisman. But Jayden, I don't know. Like, I feel like Jayden has to learn to protect himself, and also the offensive player caller has to protect himself from himself, if you know what I mean. There you go. So J.J. McCarthy, numbers-wise, didn't really show a lot, but was the quarterback of a big-time program for 3 seasons. That does have value, and he does have some good mobility. He does have an upside arm. He does throw with anticipation. Does need to throw with a little bit better touch at times, but that comes with reps. Now, people are going to be mad, but hear me out. So, ceiling Fran Tarkenton. Now, is he the running, rambling scrambler like Tarkenton was? No. But in terms of mobility to make a play, yes, that does sync up. And I guess like the closest thing to Tarkenton, I don't know, Johnny Manziel, young Russell Wilson, sure, maybe. Also, people forget, like, young Russell Wilson was really damn good, man. I mean, people are tainted by older Russell Wilson, but nah. But McCarthy, in terms of using his legs to make plays, extend plays, and keep looking downfield, yes, it could be Tarkenton. Because Tarkin got this reputation as a scrambler, except he wasn't really a scrambler to run. He was a scrambler to make something happen downfield. I think that McCarthy could bring that too. Floor, Desmond Ridder. So Ridder was a guy who was also a multi-year starter, and yeah, Cincinnati is not Michigan, but he's a guy that, since he was making a push in the playoff, like since he almost was in the national title game, and Ridder was more of a product of all the talent around him, as well as having a good head coach in Luke Fickell. So, maybe that is it. And, Ridder got to the NFL, and even though he's surrounded by talent, he just didn't have it, right? Even though I liked him quite a bit. Maybe not as a first-round pick, but he probably was fine where he was drafted. So, next up, Michael Penix Jr. So, Penix is interesting. So, the medicals are the medicals, but that arm is live. That arm is live, man. Ceiling, Stafford. So Southpaw Stafford, that makes sense. Where, Stafford had a cannon coming out of Georgia, and he was so damn good for a number of years for the Lions, and eventually won a Super Bowl with Kevin O'Connell with the Rams. But Stafford, Penix doesn't get enough credit for being a tough kid because he toughed things out at times during Washington. People knock him and say he's injury prone and glass because of what happened to Indiana. But Penix can take some hits and he comes back and he still fights, as evidence in the national title game. But also in terms of arm strength, in terms of letting it rip, like it is Stafford-esque. Floor, so Bradford. Yeah, Southpaw Bradford. Sam Bradford does make sense because you have all of the health issues of Bradford. Sam Bradford, he could have been one of the best quarterbacks in the game because when he was on and healthy, arm strength was there, the accuracy was there, the zip was there, everything was there. You had everything that you wanted in a tier 1 quarterback, but health was just always an issue. So I think that's with Penix as well. Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler is a trip, man. Not gonna lie, Spencer Rattler is a ton of fun. He's got all the arm strength in the world, but also just hadn't really put it together, whether at Oklahoma or South Carolina. Yes, he does have that reputation for being sort of a spoiled 7-on-7 kid, but ceiling Bert Favre, because I think Rattler needs to go. Ironically, I think if Rattler ends up in Atlanta, that's the best spot for him, just like Brett Favre did coming into the league back in the day. But Rattler, he needs to go somewhere to sit and marinate a little bit, but I think if he gets his shot, it could certainly be interesting. I could easily see a spot where Rattler ends up behind an established starter. That starter gets dinged up. Rattler comes in and he lights things on fire. He turns into like Tommy DeVito or Josh Dobbs, except with staying power. Could see that. Floor, Manziel. Yeah, so I mean, Rattler isn't the scrambler, that Manziel was, but in terms of big hands, big arm, just can never really get it together. Yeah, there you go. 7, Bo Nix. So I know I've been poo-pooed a lot because I'm down on Bo Nix more than other people, but I do think that Bo Nix. So if I was going to bet on any one of these quarterbacks for remaining in the league for at least 10 years, I would pick Bo Nix. Even though he's a bit older of a prospect, I think that Bo Nix is on a track where he can be a very decent backup for a decade. He could be a Chase Daniel. He could be a clipboard Jesus. He could be a Chad Henne, type backup. But actually, that's a bad example because Henne had a gun. Anyways, but Bo Nix, ceiling Case Keenum, floor Case Keenum. I feel like that's where it is about now. Case Keenum at Houston back in the day put up insane Lulu numbers. I think that he was the NCAA's all-time leading passer when he graduated. Bo Nix put up crazy numbers at Oregon too, but it was the system. And with Keenum, it was the air raid. With Nix, it was the Oregon offense. And I mean, with Keenum, so when Keenum was put in the spot in 2017, he did the damn thing. He distributed the ball. But Keenum, he doesn't have the arm strength or velocity to consistently win downfield or in tight windows. But Keenum, I mean, he's still a high-level, high sought-after backup, and that's what he's been throughout most of his career, aside from that 2-year, $40 million deal with the Broncos in 2018. So I think that's the path for Bo Nix. And again, that's not disparaging. It isn't. Like, just because I don't see Bo Nix as a next-level superstar doesn't mean that I don't think that he can play a role in the league. There you go. Next up, number 8, Michael Pratt. So ceiling, Teddy B. Floor, Kenny Pickett. So Michael Pratt is not an arm talent merchant, but he is a multi-year starter. He is a leader. He does have some mobility, and I think that he can complete a lot of things underneath. Now, Teddy was also not an arm strength merchant, but I feel like year three was going to be it before his leg fell off. And Kenny Pickett has shown that he's Kenny Pickett. So I do think that Pratt could be like a Bo Nix adjacent type guy where he can have a very nice career as a backup. So that's basically where we're at right now. Next up, number 9, Jordan Travis. Upside, Chase Daniel. So upside wise, like if Jordan Travis could be a decent backup for a number of years, a journeyman backup, I think that would be a win for him. And even before the ankle injury, like he's sort of like Nix where he doesn't have that downfield velocity. And I mean, could you say that Keon Coleman bailed him out a lot downfield? I mean, we wouldn't really have an argument there. But Travis, I think that he's a heady leader. I think that he's a tough kid. But I think that he could have some staying power in this league as a backup. Floor, ponder. I mean, that's just the lazy Florida State comparison, but is what it is. Next up, number 10. So Joe Milton III. I know the arm strength. I know the 70-yard bombs downfield. I understand that. But the fact that he only put up 20 and 5 in the very quarterback-friendly Josh Heupel offense, I don't know, man. I don't know. I know that there was a sea change there with talent, but I just don't think Milton has enough accuracy or touch underneath to be able to consistently be a starting quarterback. But could he be an awesome change of pace guy? Yes. He's got great athletic skills. Could you see him being a Taysom Hill plus? I mean, Taysom Hill with an absolute cannon? Sure. I could see that. Or floor. So Tyree Jackson. So if you don't remember, so Tyree Jackson was kind of a similar prospect coming out of Buffalo. Huge arm, 6'5" and change, and also he was KJ Osborne's quarterback at Buffalo before KJ went to the U. The more you know. But Tyree Jackson was seen as as high as a second round pick, like a day 2 pick. He ultimately went undrafted and then moved to tight end, and then I think he was in the XFL or UFL for a hot second, but. Yeah, like the league knows, like these rocket arm guys are a dime a dozen, but can you do anything else? That's what it is, man. And Kevin O'Connell's right. Like accuracy underneath is the name of the game for the league. Sam Hartman. So I know that people like Sam Hartman because he's handsome and he played Notre Dame, but ceiling, Greg McElroy. I mean, Sam Hartman may as well just I know the Hartman will have a 90-man camp invite somewhere or a tryout somewhere, but he's going to be really good on TV, so he may as well start that now. Same thing with McElroy. I think McElroy was like a 5th-round pick by the Jets back in the day, but obviously no work out. Floor, McElroy. actually, maybe his floor is Rory McIlroy. I feel like that could work out too. Anyways, that is it. That is ceilings and floors for the NFL draft quarterbacks. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.